Shop Macy's VIP sale, going on now. Use your coupon or Macy's card and take an extra 30% off the latest fall trends from designers that rarely go on sale. And save 15% off skincare, makeup, fragrances, and more. Plus, shop fall specials for even more great deals on top brands at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
In the spirit of reconciliation, the Theatre Thoughts podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all traditional custodians of the land on which our episodes are recorded.
I asked her about that actually, and she said she just really believes in karma and, wants to kind of give back and believes it comes back to you in another way.
Yeah.
And she also told me interestingly about the yachts. I didn't ask her this, but she said something like, it looks like I'm having, living the dream life, but I promise you most of it's networking and kind of, she never stops. It seems like the hustle kind of never ends, which is, I don't know if that's empowering or not to know, but.
Well, I mean, if there's a place to go networking, I think a yacht on like an Amalfi Coast is the way to do it. You're listening to the Theatre Thoughts podcast, your backstage pass to the world of theatre in Australia and beyond. I'm Justin, your guide through the drama, comedy and pure magic of the stage from the heart of Australia to the grandest stages worldwide. Join us here for enlightening conversations, reviews and behind-the-scenes stories from the artists themselves. Subscribe for your regular dose of theatre inspiration and consider supporting us on Patreon for exclusive content. Follow us on Instagram at TheatreThoughtsAUS and TTPod_official and discover even more over on our TikTok, Theatre Thoughts Australia. So join us as we rise the curtain on a brand new episode of the Theatre Thoughts podcast. Welcome everyone to the first episode of Season 3 of the Theatre Thoughts podcast. I am very excited to have two amazing performers with us to talk about a new production coming to the National Theatre of Parramatta. So first of all, we have a first-generation Australian clown who graduated from NIDA in 2020, during which he worked on Six, Ibsen's Ghost, Twelfth Night and debuted the role of Amelie in the first Australian stage adaptation of the film Amelie. They debuted the role of Shoshana in A is for Apple for Griffin Theatre Company, and most recently performed Pear-Shaped at Theatre Works in Melbourne. Please welcome Ziggy Resnick. Thank you, Ziggy, for joining us.
Thank you. Woohoo.
And we also have an actor who graduated NIDA in 2017, who since then has gone on to star in productions for the Sydney Theatre Company, Griffin Theatre Company, Belvoir Street, and The Old Fits. They also appeared in films such as Pearly Gates, Trigger Happy, and Top End Wedding. And some awards under her belt include the ATYP Rebel Wilson Comedy Commission in 2021. It is Nikita Waldron. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to both of you. Thank you for zooming in.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
So I guess the place we should start is to get to know, I know I just said your bio, but I'd love to know a little bit more about you. Like, so what are the top things to need to know about Ziggy and Nikita?
Okay, so you go.
Okay, thank you. Goodness, I feel like you've really summed me up pretty well in the bio. Well done, you've done your research.
Thank you.
Although I would like to flag my one performance for Griffin was actually on Zoom. So I don't know if it counts, but I like to think it counts.
Yeah, I'd say it counts.
Jackie Weaver was watching it, so I think that was one of my claim to fame.
There you go.
But yeah, I guess I just, been really enjoying this ride of theatre. Been really lucky. I think Ziggy and I both went through, NIDA, and that just gives you a wealth of connections and kind of a great foot into the industry. And yeah, but you meet so many extraordinary people who have different paths, obviously, along the way as well. And yeah, in the last couple of years, I've started to give writing a go too, which is how the Rebel Wilson Comedy Commission came into play. So hopefully next time you can say I've had a play on that I've written.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I did see you posted a photo with Rebel as well.
Yes, I did. That was extraordinary. As part of the commission, she took me out for breakfast, and yeah, I basically grilled her and said, tell me how you did it.
Wow, that's
How did you make a
incredible.
living out of this career path?
That's incredible. Well done.
Yeah, well, I mean, she was extraordinary and really big on giving back, which
Mm.
I think is so important to remember. Ziggy and I are so early in our journey, but yeah, as we, work our way through and build up our credits, it's important to remember to also help those get to where you are even, which is so important.
Yeah, definitely. I was actually going to say she's been giving back a lot recently. Like her career lately has just taken this really massive trajectory. She's been on like yachts in bloody Monaco and the Amalfi Coast and that, and now she's got a kid. Like she's taken this massive trajectory, and the Rebel Wilson Theatre, ATYP, the scholarships, the Deb movie. Like she's really going for it, which I'm really happy about.
Yeah, totally. I asked her about that actually, and she said she just really believes in karma and, wants to kind of give back and believes it comes back to you in another way.
Yeah.
And she also told me interestingly about the yachts. I didn't ask her this, but she said something like, it looks like I'm having, living the dream life, but I promise you most of it's networking and kind of, she never stops. It seems like the hustle kind of never ends, which is, I don't know if that's empowering or not to know, but.
Well, I mean, if there's a place to go networking, I think a yacht on like Amalfi Coast is the way to do it.
Tough life, exactly.
And Ziggy, what about yourself?
No, yeah. Did sum up this as like Nikita said, like so early in my career, I'm always like, when you get asked to do a podcast, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I wake up every day, say a prayer and hope for the best. But like, yeah, it's been, I don't know how it's gotten to the end of the year. But like looking back on this year, it has been so interesting. Like just on the last year where I'm currently like teaching Shakespeare at ATYP, like now in this moment. And like today we went to see the players, which is what I was doing last year.
Oh, right.
And then this year I like went to see the show that they were doing this year.
That's so
and
cool.
It's like this way of like creating, I don't know, it's really interesting being, in the industry, and you see how these things sort of, how you always are in some way in this world, like whether you're like teaching or like performing, with the players or on stage, and then you go and you do a podcast, and it's been a really interesting journey this year, and it's become one of fostering and nurturing relationships. Interesting that you talked about networking, like really having that perspective where it is fostering the relationships, because like I did a show at 25A this year, and now the writer I'm writing a show with, and also I was just starring in their short film, and also they're my best friend. So it's like it's just so interesting that my life's taken this route of creating work and creating relationships that really feed you artistically, but also just in your life. Yeah,
I think I have to, with like the podcast and that, I have to really try to network. And my roommate's always, he's my producer as well, he's always just like, you got to network. And I'm like, I am honestly terrible at it. I'm so bad at networking, because like I'm in like a foyer and it's just me, and I'm just like, oh, they're in a little group. I'm going, hi, I'm Jocelyn. And it's just, it's the worst sort of thing. So like any sort of natural area you can network is always good, I feel.
Yeah. And it's difficult. I don't like it. I really don't.
Yeah.
But like people that like I was like scared of, like now are my friends. But I don't know, some people are really like charming and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I like to do it like through the work.
Yeah. Totally agree.
But it's funny. It's so funny.
It is, isn't it? It's a very weird thing, but it's essentially now in our industry, which is, you know, kind of, interesting as well. Well, I'd love to do the 1 minute theatre thoughts with you both, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So essentially it's like a rough minute, and we'll do, since there's two of you, we'll do like a 1-for-1. So I'll ask a question, and then one of you can answer, the other one answer, and we'll go to the next one. And then at the end, I'll jump back and I'll pick apart some of your answers, and we can see what comes out of it.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, here we go. What has been your favourite production you've seen recently?
Oh, okay. I also like Ziggy, the year has flown by, but I hope this still counts. Priscilla Jackman's production of RBG at Sydney Theatre Company got me. I don't think I've ever sobbed so much silently in a seat at the theatre, but yeah, I've been thinking about it so much for the past year. I can't believe it's been a year. But yeah, Heather Mitchell's performance, Susie Miller's writing, and Priscilla, who's our director for this show too.
Yes.
Felt like a dream team.
Wow.
That's so good. Okay, recently I saw Is God Is the other day.
I saw that the other
and
night.
it's just so cool to see that kind of production being toured around Australia. I was just like, wow.
What role haven't you played yet that you'd still like to?
Okay, this is a tough one. I spent a long time thinking about this, but I think maybe Macbeth in the Scottish play.
Nice.
I think that the role that I want to play hasn't quite been written yet. I don't know, Ziggy, you can get mad at me for saying that on a podcast.
What? Your as you said, Macca's, your lighting changed in your box.
I
Oh,
thought that.
Weird. So I got distracted.
That's actually really true. Anyway, yeah, the lighting in my house changed for the podcast listeners at home. But as I said, the M word. But yeah, that would be mine.
Iago.
Good.
It's always a Shakespeare for me. I have like a list of Shakespeare characters I want to play.
I love that we both picked a Shakespeare just then without any pre-collaboration or cooperation.
It's very good.
Yeah, and we both picked male characters as well. Interesting.
Oh,
Yeah, you didn't say Lady Macbeth. You said the main guy.
Well, when I was looking at the pre-interview questions, I couldn't help but think as well, gosh, yeah, maybe our dream roles haven't been written yet. You know what I mean? For women.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Name a play that's left you speechless.
I really love The Harp in the South Part 1 that Kip Williams directed. I was working with Kate Mulvaney at the time, and she was acting, but she obviously adapted that. And yeah, I just couldn't quite look her in the eye the next day at rehearsals because I was like, how did your brain, adapt such an extraordinary text into, a magnificent piece of theatre? I also was very early in my theatre journey, but I hope I'm not biased. You know how sometimes when you look back on things, you're like, well, that was 5 years ago, but it just blew me away and I think about it all the time. So yeah.
I'm so excited by that because I have another link.
Tell us.
I have all my favorite productions on my wall, but the one that was really pivotal for me was Kate Mulvaney in Richard III.
Oh, cool.
That was just it for me. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good. I'll ask you two more. What's your pre-show ritual, or do you have one?
Okay, so I do a vocal and physical warm-up, and I meditate now as well, actually. But something I've really implemented is I don't look at my phone in that lead up to the show, because one of our teachers at NIDA mentioned it. It can really throw you if you get a weird piece of news or a weird text. And I just kind of think, it's glued to my hand on the best of days. Might as well just have some space from it before performing.
That's so true. It's so true. I remember reading a message before I've gone into a theatre show, and it's ruined the entire production for me because I can't stop thinking about it. And I'm just like, I've got to message them at intermission. Yeah, that's actually very true. I like that.
Thank you.
Also the vocal, physical warm-up and meditate. I think meditation's the most important thing I've realized. It's the one I want to do the least. And
well, now that I know this, I'm gonna make you meditate at the same time.
I would love to. I get so hyped. I'm like a kid before a show. I'm like, this is the best day ever. I still can't believe it. But something I do if it's a really tricky character is I'll draw a little piece of paper and I'll draw myself, and then I'll be like, bye, Ziggy. And then I fold it up real small and then put it somewhere on my dressing room. And then when I come back, I can get undressed. And I always have very specific jewelry for a character, very specific socks for a character, very specific, all my undergarments and stuff are very specific, so that I spend my time, because I wear a lot of chains in my day-to-day life. So I'll be putting back on my chain afterwards, unrolling my little Ziggy photo, putting back on all my millions of earrings and my rings, so that I can at least come back to myself. And it forces me to not run outside and get a drink. I'll sit there and be like, you're okay,
That's great.
I love that you do that. That's
most true.
You kind of check in and check out
of
your character.
Yeah.
Stanislavski would be very proud. The last one I'd like to ask is, which production would you most want to see come to Australia?
Do you want to go, Ziggy?
Okay, well, the life-changing, I watched a lot of National Theatre Live in my day.
Yes.
And I saw Angels in America, the like Andrew Garfield one.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that
And
would
I was
be
like, if that came here, I would just simply die. I would just die.
I was on Broadway, just visiting, wasn't on Broadway, I wish. And
Drop that bomb.
I know, right? I was walking past the theatre that was in, and it was actually at the time of the stage door. So Nathan Lane came out, and I was stopped dead in my tracks, and I was like, that's Nathan Lane! And he didn't stop to say hello to anyone. He was just like, put his head down and just walked off. And I was like, did anyone? No, just me? Okay, cool. And I was just like, whoa, that was a little brush with celebrity.
Broadway.
Yeah. Nikita?
okay. It's going to sound so cliche, but I guess I would have loved to have seen Fleabag live, by Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yes.
But I think that's probably the world's most overused answer because
not at all.
Yeah, I know. She's amazing. And yeah, there's something about that script has just kind of transformed what I think theatre can do, especially for like the modern woman, you know. Yeah. And I have watched the National Theatre Live production at the Golden Age Cinema, which I loved, but how cool would it have been to have seen it for real?
Mate, she's incredible. And again, another connection. I went to the Edinburgh Fringe this year, and if I had left earlier and got there on day one, I would have been at the media event that she was at to like introduce the festival and go and do flyering. And I saw it on Instagram and I was kicking myself because I was like, I should have left earlier.
I saw that. I saw she like gave a pep talk to a bunch of the like Aussie artists.
Yes. Oh, so
do you want to hear my cool parallel with her?
Always.
So when I was in high school, I was a passionate English and drama student, and the deputy would often say, like, in a really encouraging way, you remind me of my student that I used to have in England, like however many years ago. And I was always like, oh, that's so nice. Who is this student? She went to RADA, but she really struggled to get acting work. So she had to write her own. I think that's what you're going to have to do. Me, they're going, well, obviously she mustn't be very good at acting if she can't get acting work. Anyway, cut to the 5-year reunion. She comes up to me again. I'm like just about to finish NIDA. And this teacher who I really got on with, I was so happy to see her. And she starts talking about the student again. And I'm like, yeah. I remember Miss Booth used to always talk about it. And she goes, yes. And, she's got funding from the BBC now. And I was like, well, to do what? And she was like, Fleabag. And I was like, wait a minute.
Incredible.
Your student that you've talked to me about for all these years, that's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And she was like, yes, Phoebe. And that was the worst British accent. But like, she was literally just like, yes, have I not been telling you how amazing she is?
That is so
That's
cool.
Insane.
I know. But, what gives me heart and hope with that is that, like, you and I, Ziggy and I are writing a lot of our own stuff at the moment. Yeah, the hard work hopefully eventually might pay off, but just that even the best have had to do it. It's like, I think it's really inspiring that nothing was handed to her and she went through the same struggles and insecurities that every other actor does. Yeah.
And I think it also speaks very highly of the importance of fringe festivals, like
totally.
That's where she was found, was Edinburgh Fringe, and
exactly.
just went from there.
Yeah.
Let's jump back to some of your questions. So so for your once you've seen recently, Nikita, you said RBG. What was it about RBG that just really struck a chord?
I think just watching Heather Mitchell physically and vocally transform into like 40 different characters was, I've never seen anything like it. Playing a teenage version of Ruth, the oldest version, her on the brink of death. And then I remember watching her kind of and feeling, oh my goodness, this woman is so frail. How is she going to cope? And then Heather gets up and does the bow afterwards. And you're like, oh, it's just Heather. She's fine. But then you heard, I don't know if you guys know this, but she had just been like, had another diagnosis of cancer right before, performing that production. Yeah, right? Crazy. And so she obviously, fought through it, and that's why they had to postpone the production. This is all public knowledge. So, but yeah, I just thought even more so in awe of her in that time in her life to be doing that. Yeah. I also love that there were so many parallels between her and Ruth. You know,
Right.
they both had partners called Marty. They both lost their mothers around the same time in their life. Like, it just felt like Heather Mitchell was born to play that role, but you wouldn't know it. And yeah, watching it, you're like, how is she so connected to this person? And then afterwards I realized how and why.
That's incredible. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's the stuff you don't know, and that adds to a production once you know it. Like,
Totally.
that's incredible.
Yeah, and Ruth had battled cancer and her partner had battled cancer
Oh,
younger
my
as
God.
well. And yeah, it's just, yeah, I love plays that make you think, my God, life is short, time is fragile. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or other way around.
Yeah. No, I
But you
do.
know what I mean.
That happens to me so often. I just go, yeah, no, I'm quitting my job tomorrow and I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Ziggy, you said Is God Is. Now, I saw that on Saturday, actually. And I was the same. I was blown away by it. Like, at first, I had to, like, get over the initial production. Like, I felt like I had to take it all in and really let it sit. And I was just like, what did I just watch? But it was so... yeah, I think I like what you said. Like, to have that level of production touring is amazing. So I'd love to hear why did you say that one for?
I think because it is so unlike anything else I'd seen. I think I love, like, you know, we all love a little kitchen sink day to day, put the fourth wall up, give it to me, yum, yum, yum. But, you know, like, this was something I was so, it's so challenging for an audience member when you're like, I have no frame of reference for this style. I have no frame of reference for this story and this world. And everything was so, it was so thoughtful. And then, because I like know some of the actors in it, and I was like, what is up with it in terms of the script? Like, what is scripted and what is not? And then they showed me the script, and the script is like, it like goes in curves, and some is big fonts and some is small fonts, and like all of the ha 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 ha's are like literally written as ha 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 ha.
Wow.
And you're thinking, like, oath, like, period, whoever chose that as to be like the touring Sydney Theatre Company piece, because it's so weird. It was so weird. It was so just like excellently brought together on all fronts.
Yeah.
Like the music and
the music, even just like the pre-show music, I was sitting there just like, I am so in the mood to watch this show now, because it was like banger after banger, and I was just like, whoa, cool. It
is pretty intense.
Yeah, very intense.
But yeah, I was just more impressed by the decision. The decision for that to be what is touring around Australia. It's just really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for going in on that. So what we'll do, we'll take a quick little ad break, and then we'll jump in and talk about the production that you're both in. So let's talk about Girls in Boys Cars. Now, this is adapted from the book of the same name. So I'd love to know a little bit more about the show. So you directed by Priscilla Jackman. It features both of you in it, obviously. But if you could give it in a sort of a nutshell, I guess without giving away too much, how would you kind of describe it to people?
Little peach tag. I think it would be two girls, like literal and metaphorical, like journey to discovery. Like, it really is. Yeah, I would say that's it. It's because it's a road trip throughout Australia, whereby these two girls are discovering who they are, and it's like ugly and messy and gross.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah, so you're right. It's a total metaphor for what they're going through as well. The thing that I always love about this text is that it really is set at a period in my life when I reflect on that time when you just finished school and you're like, anything is possible. You know, you really feel that magic right before you break into the real world. And these two girls kind of break free of all their cultural and social pressures. They have their friendship, but their friendship is complex and a bit toxic, but it's also really beautiful. And yeah, I don't want to go into too much about the dynamic between the two of them, because I think it's kind of like the exciting thing about it. But yeah, they really do find themselves. It's like a journey of becoming, I think is what Priscilla has said.
Yeah, people have, from what people have kind of pitched it to me as, is very similar to like a Thelma and Louise sort of story renegade women out on the run, discovering themselves, breaking away the chains, and I think that's very exciting and it sounds very fresh as well.
Yeah, the thing about Thelma and Louise is that I've, in reflecting on year 10 film studies when I did it, but it shows that like two women do break free, but it's not without consequence, and I think that kind of, in a weird way, is still happening today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it plays out very differently. Yeah. There's a lot of like, gender politics and, sexual oppression and just like different things that play out differently now, but it's still the same kind of themes. It's crazy.
Well, I was actually going to ask you about the themes. I'd love to know what was it that drew you both to the show and to the production?
Okay, I'm chiming in about the Thelma and Louise thing. It's always an interesting like link that to make that, because like Rosa, the character that I play, is like directly says like, nah, it's not like Thelma and Louise.
Oh, no way. And so good.
Because I think there is this sort of impulse to compare specifically female stories to ones that already have a blueprint. And it's funny that that's, I think, a part of the themes, like that we're trying to create new blueprints, new stories, new ways of seeing women that's not just like, and that's what these girls are trying to do. They're trying to not be the damsel in the distress. They're trying to not be the girlfriend or the daughter or the like good girl or just the rebel. Like it's trying to figure out, and for them, they're trying to figure out, oh, does that like even exist? And I think so. You're always trying to have a story, have your story be something that hasn't, your story has never been told. But we don't know that because we don't know that we have the ability and the capacity to go beyond what we've been told we can be. I think that's one of the major themes in the play is breaking through and like breaking apart what we're told.
I love that. That's so well
Boundaries.
said. Yeah.
Boundaries.
But I totally agree with everything Ziggy said. However, I reckon the audience are going to draw parallels.
Yeah.
And so there is a moment that, I won't say what it is, but there is a moment that kind of does a direct nod to the film, because it's even, I mean, you'll see when you see the play, it's so different to Thelma and Louise, but there are some things about it that you can't deny are still, unfortunately, I don't know, it's like women are still not granted total freedom, and freedom come at a cost for these two women, a totally different price to pay. But it'll be interesting because I think that Priscilla's aware of that like connection, and she kind of thought, okay, I'm going to acknowledge it, but you'll have to see how she does it.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because it's
cool. It's a visual moment
ways throughout the show.
I love it. That's so exciting. How awesome. Well, one question I would love to ask both of you before we finish up is a question I've been asking a lot lately, and I'm really interested by everyone's answers that they give to it. So I'd love to know how you both think the theatre industry, either in like Australia or as a whole, how it's changed over the years, and how you think those changes have impacted the work that you do and the work that you create.
Yeah, I mean, I know that in obvious ways, like theatre is even more progressive than film in this respect, in terms of representation on stage. I think that there's been a huge push in like the last 5 years, especially, of putting, people like me who are a bit different and don't quite fit into an ethnic box, or you know what I mean, on stage, which has been really great. I don't know if I would have had a career that I've had, I definitely wouldn't have 10 years ago. So I think that's a great push. I also think like female stories are being told more and more, which is really great, but I think there's more work to be done. And so like I've always, Ziggy and I've talked about this a bit, but I'm, currently trying to get my own play up, and it delves into a very like specifically female journey of grief, and I hope that it gets a home in one of our Sydney stages, but time will tell.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great answer.
Yeah, look, it's so interesting. You know, we spend so much time as actors talking about it and trying to fight to keep this momentum going. I think
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think it's scary. I think it's really scary for a lot of people to see the industry change, because suddenly these stories that we've been telling, they're changing, and we want it. You know, it's is a great example of just like wacky style, and like it's minority stories and diverse stories to be told on every front. Like it's not just like the faces we see, and yet like who we see is so important. And like casting accurately is so important. There's a better word for that. um it's so important. It's integral to the storytelling. But same as who we're commissioning to write stories, or whose stories we're telling, and who's behind the scenes, who's bringing them to life, the directors, and who's doing sound and lights. And I think that we've started the momentum of changing and highlighting and hearing these voices, but we can't stop. And I think it's really interesting. In years ago, I haven't been overseas for a long time, but in 2019 I went to London, uh, and I saw a production of Taming of the Shrew, where it was like gender swapped, and there was someone who had difficulty hearing who was signed the whole Shakespeare, and
Wow.
there was somebody who was in a wheelchair, and and it was all just like acknowledged as a
Yeah.
part of the performance. It was made light of, and it became a part of the story, and I'll never forget that. And I think that Australians, we do have a lot of work to do. It's something that I think a lot of people are scared of, but we're seeing it. We're seeing it. I've done some incredibly barrier breaking plays in my career, like a completely Jewish story, um, where we like spoke in Hebrew, and also a story that was just um, an internet play about lesbians. Like,
Mm.
um, I think that we are getting there. I just think that we need to keep pushing the work. It's as Nikita said, the work's not done, and if we
Yeah.
just start to think that it is, then I think the what theater is arguably like a dying craft. I'm so passionate about this, so I'm sorry.
No,
So
I
I
love
think
it.
that like a big part of my work and a big part of my practice, especially in development, which I do quite a bit of at the moment, is getting as many young people into the room as possible. Because if we don't start getting young people into the theater is going to die.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think is like we can frame this as a wonderful opportunity. You know, this time we're kind of on the brink, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like this could actually just be, we could explode into like this amazing
Yeah.
era of theatre. Like we're almost there. I think we
Yeah.
can do it. But it just has to come from, yeah, like Ziggy said, it's you know, it's who's in charge, and like what, you know, what are the barriers to getting these sorts of different works up. And we've seen it done overseas. Like England is doing amazing,
Oh, they
actually.
do.
Like, they're
Yeah.
so ahead of us.
It's incredible. Yeah, you like. I mean, I only recently was there, and just some of the stuff that I saw, I'm just like, God, it's good. And I forgot how good it was, and I was like, oh, it's just so different. But in like, yeah, and it's a good blueprint to follow and inspire.
Yeah.
And yeah, audiences are hungry for it. So I think, you know, I'm excited to see where it goes. Because if you think about, you know, when I got into NIDA, I wish I could say I was like the first year of diversity, but I was actually kind of the second. Anyway, the year above us was where the change really started. Because we
Right.
had Christine Landon-Smith, this amazing British director, come in and just sort of, she really was instrumental, I think, in being like, no, we've got to, you know, really pushing the change. And yeah, I just think it was such a wonderful hubbub in the school, like the way that, you know, there were all sorts of different people coming through, and it was a really exciting time. And I just think how far we've come since then. Like,
Well,
I look
I
forward
remember I did an industry day at the end of my uni career, and
Yeah.
and we had everyone come into one place, and this was back in like 2013 or something. And I remember and I still remember to this day, all the students from NIDA were there, and I kid you not, all the men looked exactly the same. They were either tan or white with brown hair. All the girls looked exactly the same with just different hair colors. And I just remember sitting there going, oh my God, that's what NIDA comes out at this time in my life. And then it's great to see them like change and adapt and take on, you know, that feedback.
Totally. And it felt really exciting at the time. I honestly thought, I was like, oh, I'll be the only Indian in my year. And there were 2 others. I was like, what? We all have to play sisters.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much, Ziggy and Nikita, for jumping on. This has been great to talk to both of you, get to know you more and hear about your journeys and also the show as well. I'm excited to come and check it out. Oh,
we'd love to hear what you think as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye out for those little connections and just, that's what they were talking about.
Hopefully the Thelma and Louise moment is so obvious.
Yeah, like, I'll be like, okay, there it is.
Shouting in the theatre.
I'll just go, oh!
Yeah, make sure everyone in your row fully makes the link.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. All the best. And I'll hopefully see you both soon.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much to Nikita and Ziggy for joining us as our guests on the episode. Girls in Boys Cars plays at Riverside's National Theatre of Parramatta from 19th of October to the 3rd of November 2023. Tickets can be booked at riversideparramatta.com.au. This episode was produced by Echidna Audio. Follow them on Instagram at Echidna Audio for all their audio services. Once again, if you enjoyed our podcast, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts and head to the link in this episode's description for our Instagram account, TikTok, YouTube, and Patreon. My name's Justin Clarke, and I'll see you next time here on the Theatre Thoughts Podcast.
Disney's Aladdin on Broadway is among the longest-running shows in Broadway history. But did you know that it almost never came to be?
We walked out of Seattle thinking, okay, we don't have it. We have a lot of work to do.
But against tremendous odds, in March of 2024, they celebrated 10 years on Broadway.
Disney did a great job because they really took the notes.
Go behind the magic and listen to this never-before-heard story, the magical making of Disney's Aladdin on Broadway. Available everywhere you can get your podcasts.
Can you identify an alphabet just from her defying gravity war cry?
Can you name every actress in the Wicked to Waitress pipeline?
Or does the phrase witch switch mean anything to you?
Well then,
good news!
My name's Quincy.
And my name's Kevin.
And we're the hosts of Sentimental Men.
We're here to talk,
and maybe scream,
about our favorite women in musical theater, the witches of Wicked. So if spending a Friday night in a no-good deed rabbit hole on YouTube sounds like your idea of a good time, then Sentimental Men is the podcast for you.
And with guests like Jessica Vosk, Lucy Jones, and Stephanie J. Block, chances are we've already got an episode with your favorite alphabet.
Or Glinda, like Laura Bell Bundy, Brittany Johnson, and Mackenzie Kurtz.
So pause your riff compilations, put down your copy of The Grimmery, and give Sentimental Men a listen.
You can find us on the Broadway Podcast Network or wherever you listen to podcasts.